think that in targeting the conservative media, he's missed a very important target, which is the rest of the media. So, if people are misinformed about world events or national events, I think broadcast networks, all the broadcast networks, CNN, ABC, NBC, CBS, are just as responsible for that as Fox News is. The fact is, all right, see what I have to look forward to. The fact is, they account for a much larger proportion of news. More people get their news from the rest of the media than get it from Fox, or you know, the lowest rated network news program gets more viewers than Fox, than the highest rated cable news program. So, I mean, in reality, if you want to blame the media for the mass misinformation of the public, I think it's important not to avoid blaming the mainstream media as well. Fact is, during times of crisis, such as the events in Egypt for the past 18 days, CNN's ratings spike. There's even Fox viewers know that it's kind of entertainment. You know, that it's politics of sports, and when they want to know what's going on, they turn to the grown-up channel. And the problem is the grown-up channel isn't all that grown up. It's lots of and John King USA and Eric Erickson and I mean, until I figured out actually that Al Jazeera English is on my DirecTV, channel 375, a channel called Link TV, which is funded by the Gates Foundation, has been broadcasting some Al Jazeera English. But before I figured that out, and I was tired of sitting over my laptop watching it live, I was watching some CNN, and honestly, it was horrifying. they had no clue what was going on. They did not. It's not a reflection of the the intellect of any of the individuals that you saw on there necessarily. It was that structure. There's no structure at CNN anymore to cover this sort of thing. It took them. If you watched over the past 18 days, you saw how much better the second week was than the first week. It was because they had to scramble to catch up. Whereas Al Jazeera English actually has international reporters in cities where news might be happening, and they also speak the language. Al Jazeera English had Arabic speakers. CNN had Anderson Cooper. So, I mean, Al Jazeera English ran circles around CNN, not just in breaking news, but also in the analysis. I mean, CNN has offices in Washington, New York. They have offices all around the country. In theory, they should have a pretty deep Rolodex or Microsoft Outlook or whatever they use. Rolodex is an antiquated thing. But I tuned in. I guess it was 2 Fridays ago, and CNN had 2 people on with. I think Piers Morgan is the new Larry King. He has better posture than the old Larry King. We'll give him that. But they had Irshad Manji on. I don't know if anybody knows who Irshad Manji is, but she's not a terrible person. She's a perfectly fine person, but she's not an expert in Egypt. She actually is famous for writing a book about Islam. She's Canadian. I think she's half Egyptian, ethnically half Egyptian, half Indian. And she wrote a book about intolerance in Islam, and this is CNN's expert on Friday night. She was sharing the panel with Frank Wisner, who got a little famous a couple days later. Frank Wisner was appointed by Reagan in '86 to be the ambassador to Egypt, he actually said on CNN, and I had it on the DVR and I rewound it 3 times to watch this, he said that one of the reasons that one of the successes of the U.S. supporting Mubarak was that there had not been a major war in the Middle East for 30 years. Grab the remote, pause. Wife, did you hear him say that? He said, all right, I mean, he actually said that. And Piers Morgan, it just went uncorrected on CNN. I mean, it's just, I don't know, it's and another thing that Irshad Manji did was she was talking about the differences between Shia Muslims and Sunni Muslims, and she was resorting to these really, I mean, moronic stereotypes about Shias being fatalistic. I mean, it was just flat out bigotry, is what it was. But she's not a shouter. She's not Glenn Beck with the map of the flames all over the Middle East and numbers pointing to each other. She sounded reasonable. She was beige, so it's like, oh, she must know what she's talking about. She's beige. but it was bullshit. I mean, there's no way. I mean, it's like if Egyptian State TV was covering like the Georgia elections, and they went and found an Australian. And they're like, well, you know, mate, you know, the Baptists over there, you know, they don't want their sex standing up because people might think they're dancing, eh? And they're really freaky, you know? Back to you. Al Jazeera English, on the other hand, had a bunch of bookish, unattractive, bumbling people on who knew what they were talking about. Because instead of being good at TV, they were good at the subject that they were talking about. So it was much more informative. And another thing that frustrated me very much about CNN was that they really soft-pedaled the fact that that the Mubarak regime was a torture regime. That it wasn't cute that they were out there. It wasn't, oh, good for them. Well, the Bieber movie's coming out. It's like these people were this is a torture regime. These I would recommend. I mean, it's not that hard to find out information about it, but it's miserable there, and there wasn't. That context was not explored because it's an uncomfortable context. Because for as long as I've been alive, Mubarak and Sadat and the kings of Jordan and Saudi Arabia have been depicted as moderate regimes, and moderate regimes means they torture the people we don't like. So that's what moderate means. And another thing that CNN completely ignored, which is very important, was how the protesters. One of their frustrations with Mubarak was his cooperation / collaboration with Israel. It was mentioned, but it wasn't, unless you were digging in blogs, that you got translations of the signs about Mubarak going to Tel Aviv. You know, just go where you're welcome because they like you there more. It's not that the people of Egypt want to get rid of the Camp David Accord and go to war again. It's not that. It's that they don't support their government collaborating with Israel, among other things, to block 1.6 million Palestinians in Gaza. That wall touches Egypt. And by the way, of those 1.6 million people, more than half of them are children. So it's something to keep in mind. This isn't a bunch of scary people there. It's children. It's small children. And you also, one of the, I guess, really the reason that that this was ignored, I think, is because we're all complicit in it. I mean, every president of the United States since Gerald Ford